Now, the Bram Weinstein Show on Washington's new home for sports, ESPN 630.
Hey, babies. Hey, babies. Hey, babies.
Go Birds!
Hey, babies.
Go
Hey,
Birds!
babies. Hi, everyone. I am like a junkie today. This is so fun. Oh, this is fun.
Thanks, NFL, for the shot in the arm.
Man. Oh, man. There's no such like legal tampering period. How many deals can get done in 2 minutes? Again. It's pointless. It's all pointless.
What was the first one? It wasn't Kirk. It was someone else was signed at like 12.
Somebody signed at 12:02.
Quote unquote signed at 12:01. Might have
yeah.
been Wilkins with the Raiders. I think it was Wilkins with the Raiders,
That
that's nasty. Out there.
was. There's an arms race out there. The weird one's the Chargers are trying to trade off people.
Yeah, because they're $32 million over the cap.
Yeah.
I mean,
So they can't do anything.
right. What's
They're trying
funny
to
is
get
how
rid of Bosa. Nobody's going to want that contract. He gets hurt a lot.
Right.
They're trying to get rid of Mack. I think somebody might come along with a nothing deal for him, but like take him because he's at least been healthy.
Right.
Then they're talking about trading their receivers.
They said those were like the last resort, but they both make, I think, $32 million, $36 million, something like that. How are they $30 million over the cap with an extra 30 that got lopped on this year? That's crazy, by the way.
When you give your quarterback a $45 to $50 million a year contract, it changes everything. Go look at the Bills. The Bills are getting rid of a bunch of people now, too. Had to get rid of a bunch of people now, too, because they had no choice. This is what happens. The Cowboys are in trouble, can't sign anybody. People are getting peeled off their team because they have a quarterback who's making $60 million against their cap. And it appears as if, considering they've done nothing about it, they look like they are actually going to go through with this. We're going to make them play out the year.
Right.
And then we have no cap exposure and have a $60 million hole next year with no quarterback.
Right, exactly. I got that vibe with Jarrah, because Jarrah was doing the whole, we could just play the year out with him.
Uh-huh.
The second he said that out loud, I thought, okay, that's a legitimate chance they're going to do that.
I actually think they kind of should do that.
I agree, actually. That just means this year, though, they're not going all in.
It just means, right, they're not going all in, and they're not going to get better.
Right.
And now they're just losing people. Like Tony Pollard's gone.
Sure.
Tyler Biotish signed here. Dorrance Armstrong signed here. There's 3 or 4 more free agents that are not their prominent players, but they're available. I think Jordan Lewis could come here. Like, I think there's a couple other guys, a couple other Cowboys that could end up coming here. Where do you want to start? The big news ones or the Commanders ones? Because the Commanders ones aren't the big news ones, and neither one of them so far, and I still think there's more to be done here. They're neither. None of them are surprising, and they're not. So you want to start with the big news ones?
Yeah, let's go to the big news ones.
Saquon goes to the Eagles.
Yep.
This is...
Damn it, Giants. Come on, man.
it makes sense because he wants to stay in the Northeast.
Right. I told you. By the way, I was on that. I said Philly stays in the same area, played for Penn State. You got to laugh, but I was like, I could see it because the Eagles do crazy things when they want to get their skill position figured out.
So, I'd love to talk to Brian Mitchell today about this because Brian Mitchell, he went to the Giants and the Eagles, but that's because he was mad at us.
Correct, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And rightfully so, mad at us. Did Saquon Barkley do this because it's regionally close or partially because he's mad at them? Maybe both.
Could be everything, though.
Could be all of
Super
it.
Bowl contender.
I mean, I believe Houston tried to get him, and I believe that Houston probably, made a similar offer. It sounds like Saquon likes living in the Northeast. He's from here.
Yep.
He constantly talked about how he just wanted to stay with the Giants. And this is a classic, I don't know what you're doing with a star player. Why are you stringing him along over very small amounts of money?
Right.
Like, he's not asking for $30 million and you're offering 10. Look what he signed for. He signed for a number that you should have agreed to, but you didn't. And so you clearly are just stringing him along, trying to get the best nickel and dime deal. He's probably staring at Danny Dimes going, you didn't have a problem giving him a market deal. And all of a sudden you have a problem giving me a market. I'm Mr. Giant. I'm a top 5 pick. I've been everything you could have asked for, and you won't give me the money. So maybe he does a little bit of all of it. He wanted to stay in the region. I can't wait to hear his press conference because, he's going to be asked about going to an arch rival,
right,
which is, unusual when that happens of a player that's prominent, that's in his prime, but he did. And the Eagles, boy, they landed maybe the 2 best free agents available outside of quarterbacks in Saquon and Bryce Huff.
Yep.
Huff was the guy that I earmarked for. That's the guy I'd like to see the Commanders chase. And I guess we'll find out through reporting, were they in on that? Because the numbers between Armstrong and Huff aren't that far off from one another. But, the Commanders are going to go with a guy they know. Joe Witt and Dan Quinn get him. They know him.
Yep.
Huff, you are betting there's going to be an upside for him, that it's going to be a higher number, like it's going to be a higher level. I looked at him and went, of the things we need and of the players that are available, he is the one that I would swing for the fences for. As it turns out, the number that he got wasn't all that outrageous. It's about $16 million a year, that's the Hassan Reddick kind of number. It's not Montez Sweat, Joey Bosa, Nick Bosa money. So it's actually about right on the number and right on the nose. I thought it might be a little higher than that because somebody would swing for him. So we'll have to see if they actually went after him or not. But the Eagles landed two prominent, now we know why they're trading Josh Sweat, two prominent free agents. And we'll see how that works out for them.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm just more irked at the Giants because who are you paying again? Why couldn't you hold on to a guy that wanted to play for you? I mean, there's no excuse here.
Well, let's see. They nickel and dime Leonard Williams.
Yep. Right.
And that, to the end.
Yep.
Right. Now he's gone.
Yep.
Dexter Lawrence is still there, but we'll see.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have, who on offense do they pay outside of Jones? Nobody.
I mean,
they just signed a guard, which they needed.
Right.
Which they needed, but they don't have prominent receivers unless Jalen Hyatt becomes it. Their quarterback, they want to get out of that business. They don't want to pay Barkley, who's their best player on offense, and not close. Darren Waller's considering retirement, but was on his last legs anyway because of all the injuries. So they took a shot with him.
He's a rap, I remember.
Yeah. Let's see. Defensively, Leonard Williams walks on them. Mm-hmm. They don't want to sign Xavier McKinney.
Yeah, right.
Don't want to sign him.
That's right. Yeah.
He's 24 years old. They're paying Adoree Jackson, but they want out of that.
Yep. Yeah, what do they actually want?
What are they doing?
They might be worse of a mess than the Vikings because the Vikings have at least been operating like that for 3 years.
I've been saying this about the Vikings for a couple of years now going, I don't know what they're doing.
Right.
But
they're not that franchise is what I'm getting at. The Giants have tended to take care of their own more than anyone else. That's a marquee franchise. No offense, Vikings, but
hot take. Justin Jefferson will either get the largest deal ever given to a receiver in the next week or he will ask for a trade.
So you are saying
Period.
So you are saying that I went full sports talk radio last week, but they could offer us Justin Jefferson and something for the second overall pick.
I don't think that's impossible. They don't have a quarterback.
I'm on it. I'm on a heater lately.
They're going to have to trade him to get to something like that.
Yes.
Now.
Correct.
Right?
Uh-huh.
So I do the Patriots consider something like that?
Right.
Do the Cardinals consider something like that and go, I don't know.
Right.
Do we go draft Marvin Harrison because he might be at number 4 and start the clock?
Right.
Or do we take a known quantity, know exactly what that guy is, give Kyler Murray this, and give them the 4th overall pick, and then what do they do? Just like Marvin Harrison?
Probably. Because they've done it 3 times in a row.
J.J. McCarthy or Drake May. Because
I would follow.
Well, that does that seem impossible? Then the Cardinals have to ask the question of themselves at that point. Do they go, do we want to pay Jefferson, knowing exactly what we're getting, which is a top tier, maybe the best receiver in the NFL, but we got to pay him
Did your guy ask McCarthy in the meeting if he took the bus?
Did you take the bus?
Which McCarthy actually probably does take the bus.
The Giants, the Vikings, the Broncos.
Yeah.
To some degree, the Raiders. I don't know what they're doing. These are the teams I don't know what you're doing.
The Raiders are at
right
least
now.
stacking up on defense, which I understand.
Yes,
I mean, because
they
you
are.
need to in that division.
And they also, Pierce woke them up.
Yeah.
They have studs. They just added another.
Right.
Christian Wilkins, Max Crosby, and the 8th overall pick, Tyree Wilson from last year, you're going to argue is going to be as good as it's going to get.
Yep, right.
You have a top 5 defensive tackle and a top 5 defensive end. Mm-hmm. And then all the stuff behind it really emerged. The reason why they beat the Chiefs late in the season was that defense played ridiculously. So it's really propped up. But they don't have a quarterback. Now they don't have their running back. He's gone. Mm-hmm. So they got a really, really, really good receiver and nothing else on offense. Yep. So let's see what they do. I think it screams they should go get a quarterback. And if I'm them, Justin Fields is making more and more and more sense.
I'd make that call.
To go there. And the market is so thin, they actually could probably get him for a good rate now.
Yep.
So that makes too much sense to me now. Go get Justin Fields if you're the Raiders. Take a shot on him. You're not going to be able to pick the quarterback you want in the draft unless you want to pay the price to move up, and if we're even willing to move. It's going to be hard to get a deal done. the market for Fields, as predicted, if they didn't do anything by the combine or the start of free agency, is going to get thin on them. The Vikings have their the Falcons have their quarterback. The Buccaneers have their quarterback. Patriots, I suppose, could be interested, but they got the 3rd overall pick, so why? They don't have any. They're not motivated to do it. If they like Drake May or J.J. McCarthy, they're not motivated to do it. They don't have to do anything. They can just sit there and let the person fall in their lap. Who's left?
Right.
Maybe the Vikings are interested, but if you're the Bears, are you trading him in division?
No. Yeah,
no, of course not.
You're not going to risk that.
Especially when the deal is a 3rd-round pick now.
Yeah,
because if that's all you're going to get, because they screwed up, they needed to trade him sooner because the Falcons might have been interested, but now they aren't.
Right. You also, I think what happened yesterday, because did you see the reports on Fields? That the quote was he wasn't, quote, a sure thing over quarterbacks like Sam Darnold.
I saw that, and I'm like, that's ridiculous.
Well, what I think happened here is I think this is the league going, we're just going to operate, and then we already know you're getting a franchise quarterback at number 1. We're going to let you sweat it out because if any of us want Fields, we're going to let the other dominoes fall first, and we're going to get him at a better rate. We're not going to hand you more draft capital. I think the whole league was in cahoots on that one because he should have been traded last week.
But again, only one team's going to get him.
Right.
So if you're the Raiders and you actually want him, or you're the Vikings, I think it's going to be hard for them to get him.
Right.
If you're Seattle and you like the idea of giving him a second run there, or there's probably a couple others I'm not even thinking of right now, but that are out there that are interested. Well, you got to make a move to get him because they're not going to cut him.
Right.
So you got to make a move to get him. And, I just think that price keeps going down, down, down because Pittsburgh got their quarterback. Atlanta got their quarterback. You're not going to trade him to Minnesota, I don't think. You'd be crazy to do that. Right. I don't think you're going to do that. So now you're just running out of places for him to actually possibly go. And the Raiders kind of make almost too much sense now. And so, but what are you going to get now out of them? They're probably like, we'll give you a 4th-round pick,
right?
Which is a terrible return for someone of his level. But it answers a question for them for at least a couple of years. And if their defense builds up to what it looks like it might be, he might be good enough for them. And I still firmly believe that he has the possibility of being really good. I'm not totally out. That's why that quote about Darnold or someone like that. No. In my opinion, he's way above that.
No, I agree.
The ceiling is way higher than that. And I think a second go with the right staff and the right offensive coach who treats him the way he should be treated and takes advantage of his skill set and not try to fit him into something, you might have a hit in him. So if I'm the Raiders, that's the team. They should be, plus they have to get a quarterback. How are they going to compete with? I don't care how good their defense is. How are they going to compete with Harbaugh, Herbert, Mahomes? Now I don't know what Denver's doing. So but you got to beat. You have to beat Mahomes.
Yeah, right.
You can't beat him with a low rent quarterback. I don't care how good your defense is. You can't beat them.
They did on Christmas, though.
They did. They also didn't make the playoffs.
They also didn't pass after the first quarter.
In the end, you aren't going to beat him unless you have a quarterback who gives you a chance to score points. You aren't. So they have to go do something. They're either moving up in the draft or they're taking a shot on someone like Penix because they can just get him. Mm-hmm. Or, and I think more, I would sell to them if the price is really low on Fields. You can take Penix too.
Right.
Give up a 3rd-round pick, 4th-round pick, get Fields in, draft Penix, let them compete for a couple of years, and however it shakes out, and you're good to go. That's what I would do if I'm them.
Raiders, I agree with. I have 2 dark horses, though, I think, in the NFC that I think we could see happen. I think it's not the craziest thing in the world for New Orleans to move on from Carr.
100%.
I know they restructured, but they could flip him to Minnesota. You solve a couple problems there, by the way. You could flip him to Minnesota, trade for Fields. Fields a little cheaper than Carr for the next couple years. Then the other one, because you just said it, the compensation is down for him. Who's not to say Jerry trades for him? And then there's a succession plan.
And then trades Lance to Minnesota because they want him?
Maybe. Oh, I didn't even think about Lance. He wasn't even a factor in this. I just thought because Dak is in his last year, and you get to say to Fields, sit on the bench for a year, but then you're going to be our guy. And then Jerry all of a sudden gets a first-round talent on his roster.
Yeah, and it's going to be real weird for Dak.
Yeah, but he's got to play through it because he's got 1 year left. I'm telling you, I think the Cowboys
because
would be
his next
smart.
Contract depends on him playing well. He has
Correct.
no choice.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's Jarrah to a T. yeah, we got him stuck here, so he's got to play well.
Maybe.
I
I mean,
could
like,
see
look at the market now. It's not Buffalo, Miami, probably not New England because they're sitting at 3. It's not the Jets. It might be Dallas. It's not the Giants, although I would argue with them.
Okay,
You have
I
to
can see
think
it.
about it.
Yep, I'd agree with you
It's
on that.
not Philly. It's not us. We're not taking them now,
Right.
obviously. It's nobody in the AFC North. They all have their quarterbacks.
Yep.
I don't think they would trade him in the NFC North, but the only one there would be Minnesota if they were even
happening.
open to it. It's not Houston. It's not Indy. It's not Jacksonville. It's not Tennessee.
Yep.
It's now not Atlanta. It's not Carolina. It might be, I guess, New Orleans. It's obviously not Tampa now.
Right.
Denver, maybe.
Could see it.
But I have a funny feeling
That ain't Sean Payton, though.
No.
It's not his,
Sean
that's not his scheme
Payton-
at all. Yeah.
he probably wants McCarthy.
Right. Exactly.
He wants McCarthy or May, I'm sure is what he wants,
Right.
right? It's not Kansas City. I think it should be the Raiders. It's obviously not the Chargers. It's not the Cardinals, Rams, Niners. I think it could be the Seahawks. The
Seahawks.
numbers, it just the amount. This is why they needed to do it preemptively and not wait until now, because the obvious teams that have interest in it are going to fill their voids. Pittsburgh did it very affordably with Russ.
Yep.
Atlanta did it semi-expensively with Kirk Cousins, but
Going rate for a quarterback, though. They didn't go too crazy in that deal.
I got to tell you,
45 mil a year. I mean, people are scoffing at it, but it's not the crazy number.
with that offensive line and their skill position
Yep.
players, he'll be good there.
Yep.
Now, is their defense good enough? I don't know. But in that division, they're the favorite overnight.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
Overnight.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
Overnight. Carolina
If he's
won't be
healthy.
that
If
much
he's healthy,
better.
of course.
New Orleans, we'll see. I think they're in the midst of a shakeup with their cap, and Carr doesn't. They should have won the division last year and didn't. So that ought to tell you everything you need to know. Tampa, I think, is a average team who did the right thing and actually got Baker to take a number that I thought was right.
Same. Yeah, I thought
I
it
think
was
they
good.
agreed.
Yep.
He agreed to something that actually, because I was like, "You're going to give him $50 million? You're nuts."
He got a long-term. He got a little more long-term stability for a lower number, which I think is fine.
Good for him.
Yep.
I know. I agree. So, but Kirk to that team makes their offense on paper by far the best in that division and not close. Is their defense good enough? We'll see. But they brought in the head coach to change all of that. So if Raheem Morris gets them playing at even just a mid-tier top 15 level, then they're probably the favorite on paper to win that division overnight.
Same quarterback room, Kirk and Heineke.
Oh, I hope so.
That fills up 6 hours of Washington, D.C. sports talk.
I assume they're just going to cut Ritter.
Yeah, they have to.
I assume that.
Gotta think so. Because
And
he doesn't
then-
even look really serviceable.
I
either.
don't know why you wouldn't just keep Heineke.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
Unless, maybe they draft somebody below Kirk. 'Cause
Becomes
in a
certain
couple of
callers'
years,
favorite team in the world now, with Cousins and Heineke in the same room.
Cousins and Heineke. Oh, man.
I'd like to be
That's a
around when
good
they
one.
share a drink and talk about here.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Well, what are they? I mean, Heineke, I think they're different cuts of cloth, but I think
That's
they'll-
fine. No, I know.
Yeah.
So tell me about the worst day you had there.
Yeah.
And then they just exchange battle scars at that point.
Cousins with all the rappers. Oh, that's good. Oh, that'll be
Oh,
good.
yeah, chains on planes. Kirk has got to come back, right?
I think
He's going to have a deal with like Wingstop tomorrow.
Probably. All right.
Magic City. Does he have a deal with Magic City
Magic
tomorrow?
City.
Just for the
Magic
wings.
City.
Just for the wings.
God, it's happening so fast. I am pissed that the Eagles got Saquon. I
Yeah.
can't believe the Giants let that. I mean, it could have happened a year ago because they were acting so ridiculously with him.
Right.
Just so ridiculously. The whole time I'm sitting there going, he's your best player. He's in his 20s. Bite the bullet and give him the number he wants. The number isn't that bad. It's not going to crush your cap. Why are you playing this game with him? You had no problem doing it for Jones. What are you doing? And then now he's playing on Philadelphia. How are you better today because of that?
Right.
I don't know what they're doing.
You're not.
I'm shocked. Because when they hired that guy out of Buffalo and then hired Dayball, I went, uh-oh, here we go.
Right.
And what ended up happening? I don't understand what their roster is
I don't
3-4 years later. They gave money to Jones unwisely. They ran Saquon out. They haven't improved their offensive line receivers at all. And defensively, they're a mishmash mess. And maybe their best young player, they're playing hardball with him too.
Yeah.
And McKinney's going to walk. Like, I don't know what they're doing.
One more in the running back market. This one just broke. The Packers have informed Aaron Jones he's being released.
Because they signed Josh Jacobs.
Yeah, they had contract talks, I guess, with Jones, so now he's out.
So Jones wouldn't take, this is the
lesser
Caps
deal.
move.
Yeah, exactly.
Jones wouldn't take what they were offering him.
So
they're just like, all right, bye.
Yep, exactly.
So he's going to be a very good pickup for somebody, too.
Agree. He's probably pissed, too, because he's like, you couldn't do this an hour ago where I'd be on the market.
Yeah, they probably told him.
Right.
This is the deal. Do you want it?
Right.
Now he's out, so he's going to be released.
They probably called his bluff by signing Jacobs. I mean, that's exactly what happened.
Dallas has to get a running back bad.
Yep. Right. Exactly.
If he's a deal, he's going to be a big deal for them.
Right.
But they got to go get a running back bad now. And from Texas, Aaron Jones?
I don't know Aaron Jones. Looking at the running back market, though, I think Washington's going to get one of these guys that's on the scrap heap.
He's from Georgia, but he played in Texas.
Oh,
He played at UTEP.
There you go. Okay.
I think Dallas, I'd be watching them for him. They got to get a running back in there.
Right. Exactly.
They lost Pollard, not surprisingly. They lost Pollard because they don't have any cap space. They told Gallup he can go look for a trade.
Right.
They've, Biotis just left. Armstrong just left. They have some others that this is because they've decided they don't want to redo Dak's deal, and I actually don't blame them. So this is a pause year for them.
Right.
And it's going to be a show-me year with a team that isn't as strong as the one from a year ago.
Right.
Ooh, Jerry's playing a little hardball here.
Good luck.
And it's going to be a reset because if they go the wrong way, he'll fire McCarthy too. And so they'll bring in a new coach.
I don't think it's the wrong move.
No,
though.
I don't. With Dak,
I
don't.
I think we're going to see this more and more in the modern NFL. Like, we're seeing it today. People
This
who
is your
sign all
window.
these deals,
You have your chance.
And when you don't,
not with everybody, though. People like Burrow, Allen, Mahomes, they'll constantly restructure because they're just too good.
Yeah, no, of course. But, I mean, I think we're at the point now, though, where if you get teams with the Cowboys cap where they have the quarterback, but he's not the top 3 or 4 quarterbacks, like you just mentioned, they're going to have these reset years because they're trying to surround him with
That's what Minnesota's done.
Right.
That's what Minnesota did with Kirk. They signed him to a short-term-ish deal. They allowed it to expire. The problem with them is, their team isn't very good, and now they don't even have a quarterback who's a top 10 one, which Kirk is. So I don't know what they're doing either. I'm confused by them. I don't know what they're doing. I've been flagging them for a while. I don't know what you're doing. You keep running off your good players. It doesn't really make a lot of sense. Your team doesn't seem to get better. Kirk saved you. I think O'Connell's a pretty good coach. He kept that thing together with an average team. Now they don't have a quarterback. If they actually sign Sam Darnold and go into the season like that next year, I give it a week, Justin Jefferson, before he asks for a trade.
Is it outlandish?
Maybe less.
Is it outlandish to think about this now, just looking at the quarterback market and what Fields, the non-movement on Fields, does the movement go up on a guy like Howell? Because
think about this for a minute. Atlanta went and signed Kirk, who's in his mid-30s for off Achilles for $45 million a year. You could have got Fields for half that if you just gave up a third-round pick.
Yep, right. Yeah.
I don't know, man. What's
I
the better deal?
But I told you this. It's because now I think we need to have 2 separate conversations. Do you want the traditional quarterback or do you want the running quarterback? And that's why the top 2 in the draft are for 2 bad teams, and the other 2 are now shooting up the draft board because they're more traditional.
I will live with this take forever. I think if Fields got the right offensive coordinator, I don't think he's just purely a running quarterback. I think he can be both, and I think he's got a really good arm, and I think he showed it off at times last year. I just think that nobody seems to want to structure an offense that accentuates his strengths. Mm-hmm. And I think if he got in the right place, that there'd be a chance that he ends up being really, really, really good. Question is, where is that? It wasn't Chicago, and if it's going to be somewhere else, again, what's around him is going to have to matter here. So I believe that he could be a really good, high-end, electric NFL quarterback. He's shown it at times.
Right.
He just needs to be in the right place. So then, again, I would go back to the argument of, okay, if you're Atlanta, do you want Cousins at $45 million a year, or do you want somebody who's half the price and he's also 10 years younger than him?
Right.
I don't know the answer to that, honestly. I really don't know the answer to that.
I do think for Atlanta, it matters in that their division is super winnable. So you don't really have to wait it out with Fields. You don't if Kirk is healthy. Yeah.
With Kirk, they should win that. On paper, they should win that division.
And so
now.
I think knowing
especially
Raheem
now
Morris,
knowing that Carr totally underperformed.
That was such a underwhelming year for that whole entire offense.
They should have won that division easily.
Correct.
Especially the way Carolina was terrible.
They were scoring 14 points
Tampa's
a game.
average, Atlanta's average. Atlanta's playing Ritter.
Yep.
Carolina craters. The only team you have to beat is Tampa, and they couldn't do it.
Right.
So I agree. They could move on if they could figure out a way to do it.
Right.
They could probably move on.
Yeah.
All right, let me take a quick break, and I'll get into some of the Commanders' moves as well. Bram Weinstein Show, ESPN 630 Sports Capital. A New York Post reporter is put up on Twitter that the Giants never made an offer to Saquon Barkley.
Oof.
What?
What are we doing here?
What are you doing? Do you not know what a good football player looks like, is what I would ask you. Why would you not want him?
The Commanders and Cowboys are like, guy,
right.
do we need to help you out or something?
Yeah,
Just so we don't have to play
against him? Do you want us
him?
to give you the scouting report on him? He kills us?
Come on.
Wish he would have gone to Houston. Oh, I wanted him out of here.
Yeah, it would have been nice.
Oh, he goes, what a reload for Philadelphia.
Yeah.
A massive
I called
upgrade.
that one, by the way. It made too much sense. He likes living in this part of the country, played for Penn State, gets to play against the Giants. Made too much sense.
Yeah. Bryce Huff to Philadelphia as well, 3 years. I think he's the best edge rusher that was available that you don't have to trade for. It sounds like you could trade for some others, but best edge rush.
Right.
He was one that I think I talked about this on Friday when I was doing kind of a primer for this. He's the one, if I was going to take a swing at somebody, I actually thought his number would be higher than this. But it ended up being right around what Dorrance Armstrong got from Washington.
Yep.
So I was a little surprised it's a tick higher. He got 3 years, $51 million. Armstrong reportedly 3 years, $45 million from Washington. All right, let's get into the Commanders here a little bit, who have done 2 signings so far. Both were necessities. They have a new starting defensive end. Dorrance Armstrong comes from Dallas.
Yep.
The other player they signed is Tyler Biadasz, the center, who also comes from Dallas. Biadasz has been durable. That's been a problem for Washington in recent years. Chase Roulier started a turnstile after he got hurt the first time. Then they brought in Tyler Larson, who was never going to be able to play 17 games, and they were moving everybody around. Wes Schweitzer played center for them. They got Nick Martin off of the streets to play for a while. They had 8 centers play in 2 years.
Yep.
This is obviously a sign that this group doesn't believe that Ricky Stromberg was ready to move into a starting position. He was a pure center at Arkansas. Rivera and company ran into their own self-made logjam by drafting him and re-signing Tyler Larson. By last summer, I'm sitting there going, well, one of these guys has to be cut unless you decide, well, guess what? Ricky Stromberg's a guard now, which is what they ended up doing. And then he ended up getting hurt, and he could potentially be the backup center, which it seems likely at this point. But Washington now has their starting center. They gave Biadasz something in the neighborhood of 3 years, $30 million, which is the going rate for a top-tier center. I saw all the PFF grade stuff where, most importantly, he plays in every game, which has been a problem for this team. We needed a new starting center. I think we needed one with some experience. So it's the right it's move one that was obvious. They had to do something, and this is. Not surprisingly, we'll have the Calmanders now. We're gonna get a few. We're gonna get a few Dallas players.
Calmanders.
We're gonna get a few. We're gonna get. I mean, it was obvious we were gonna get a few Dallas players. Why wouldn't we? Of course we were.
Funniest
right?
first time I've heard that.
Yeah, we're gonna get a few Dallas players. Dorrance Armstrong comes in. This team traded Montez Sweat and Chase Young and don't have adequate starting backups. So it was obvious that they had to go get a defensive end. And they do. And they get Armstrong, who, my opinion on him is this. I think he's a very good, durable, plays a lot player. Is he going to end up being a 12 to 15 sack player? I don't think so. But they're also not paying him like that. They're paying him like the tier below. The Hassan Reddick, what Bryce Huff just got. I actually think that Philly deal on Bryce Huff was a very good deal. I think there's a high-end ceiling on him that you haven't seen much of because the Jets have an influx of really good defensive linemen. Armstrong, Huff seems to be more of a rotational piece for the Jets and actually took advantage of that. He reminds me of Reddick a lot. Armstrong played a lot.
Yep.
And, he was not the one that was going to receive any double teams for sure because standing on the other side of him or moving around was Micah Parsons. But he was a very good player, good motor, obvious need filled. And so in both cases, none of it is surprising. The price points are about where I thought it would be for what was available because there isn't a, top tier rush end. Sorry, Chase Young on the market that's available that's going to make you pay $25 million a year like Montez Sweat would have had he reached free agency. And so I think they got a guy that they know. So that's not surprising to me. There's a guy that they've worked with for the last few years. He's gotten better and evolved. And so he's plug him in as a starter. Now let's see what they do on the other side, which does scream a little bit of, we might get Micah Light with Jamin Davis. Not that I even want to put him in the same class because he hasn't performed at that level whatsoever. But it does sound like that they may be looking at Jamin Davis at least for a year to go, all right, good athlete.
Yep.
Guy's going to rush the passer. Let's move him around like Micah a little bit and let's see what we get out of him.
Yeah, why not?
So I think that that's possibility here. I do think that they still need to draft at this position, but they have their starter. And so we've got John Duran, Dorrance Armstrong, Jamin Davis to some degree, maybe KJ Henry. I don't know what they think of Andre Jones off of his rookie year. He's just a 7th-round pick, but he showed flashes in camp last year. And then, we have not seen a re-signing yet. F.A. Obata, James Smith-Williams, Casey Tuhill, second wave of free agency. I would bet one of them may be back. So, and there comes a backup there or somebody rotational piece. So that was position one that needed to be dealt with. I don't think they had any choice. Center, I agree also. If you're not going to draft one in the second round, and I don't think you want a rookie quarterback and a rookie center, frankly, needed to be dealt with.
You had to have
so
one offensive lineman signed today.
One. I think I would argue two. I'm waiting for a tackle.
Sure.
So that's what I think is next here. I think they need to sign a tackle. And we haven't seen any of the big tackles sign yet. So that one's interesting. Like, all these deals have been happening real fast. The guard market and center market started drying up real fast. Lloyd Cushenberry signed with Tennessee. We got Biotish. Robert Hunt, who's probably best guard on the market, just went to Carolina. I bet that's a massive deal. Before free agency opened, people closed the door on some of the guards. Kevin Dotson re-signed, Ezra Cleveland re-signed, Brandon Sheriff restructured. Like, all that started happening real fast. Like, people got scared about the guards signing. Right. Landon Dickerson, right as free agency started, signed a massive deal to stay in Philadelphia. So the guard market heated up real fast. Everybody's looking at the inside protection now. So we've got Cosme as a carryover. Now we got Biotish. We feel good at center. Does Andrew Wiley end up becoming the left guard, or is that an open competition? We'll see. We'll have to see where Wiley kind of fits. But this is my point. They need a tackle. They don't have, in my opinion, a left tackle on the roster right now. They don't. I don't even need my opinion. They don't. And at right tackle, open question. I think Wiley's on the team. I think he could be the swing tackle for them. I think he could be the starting left guard for them, too. I think either one of those things could happen, but it means that you need one, maybe two tackles. And so I'm waiting to see. The question is, and this was the part I was bothered by coming into free agency. I know we had all this money, but like, you have to spend it on the people you need to get. And there aren't really good high-end tackles. This is typical. Same thing with rush ends. There aren't really high. You saw what the price points were. None of those guys got what Montez Sweat got when he signed that extension because none of them are of that capacity. Hopefully, we signed Dorrance Armstrong. Montez Sweat never had double-digit sacks here. We pay $10 million a year less for the guy who gives you the same output than we did. All right. All right. So let's see.
Of course.
Sweat may end up, elevating in Chicago because he did at the end of the season.
Sure, but it's also a change of scenery sometimes as well. It makes a difference there.
And Armstrong, is going to get a lot of run here because there's nobody that's going to be pushing him. But we need a tackle. And I do think it's interesting because tackles typically get swooped up. You'll notice none of them have yet. None of them. Because they aren't top-tier tackles. So what's the price point for them? I don't know. And that was part of this, I think we need to sign one of these guys. The question is, what are we going to pay for it? You can't go into a season taking on Philadelphia's defense and Dallas's defense with a weak offensive line. We've seen that. So I think we have to go get a tackle. The guy I would watch here is Mike Onwenu from New England. But it's going to depend on the price point. Jonah Williams is also available, former first-round pick, but I don't think he deserves the top-tier money, which is probably why you haven't heard his name fly off the market yet. That's the one I'd watch is Onwenu. That's the one I would watch. But, again, this is the problem. Everybody saw this money and they're like, we're going to go swing for the fences. Well, if you actually surveyed the marketplace and what we need, we're not in the market to get Kirk Cousins, right? We're not in the market to get Baker Mayfield. Well, who of this list warrants spending the type of money that we have the cap room to spare? So that's probably why Peter signaled early, we're not going to make crazy moves because he looked at the market too and said, who are we giving $30 million a year to? We could if we wanted to, but who on this list would you do it with? And there really isn't anybody. But I do think they need to sign a tackle, and I'm watching Twitter every minute here waiting for a signing because I don't see how this team – I think they could draft one with one of those top 2 second-round picks for sure. Or I've made the argument, you package them up and get back into the middle of the first round and go take, because it's a very deep tackle core. If you think you can get one in the teens, great.
Yep.
So I think that's a possibility too, and that might settle one of the two, but it doesn't settle both. So I think they need to sign a tackle, and I'm expecting it to happen.
Yeah, I mean, I would factor this in too as well. I think Ben Standig started getting on this either this morning or last night by saying they're going to spend some money, but also it's worth mentioning, some of the cap money carries over now in the NFL. A lot of people don't factor that in, that you get a percentage back of whatever you don't spend each year.
Yeah.
They could know we have to turn this around, but it's going to take a couple of draft classes and free agency classes.
We don't want to trade it. We have all this draft capital. We don't actually want to trade it. We just got this compensatory pick with Chase Young, so we have 2 in the third round, 2 high in the second round.
Right.
We got the first round pick. You know what? Let's see how we do with that.
That's right. Exactly. And
we're going to get a quarterback. We're clearly going to pick a couple of guys very early. It's possible they could take who they think their linebackers. I'm waiting for that one. That's another one I'll bring. I think they need to go get a linebacker personally, but maybe they're waiting. As you could see, not a lot of them are getting big money on the market, so maybe they're letting that one play out a little bit.
Same thing with safety. Not a single safety has
Kevin
signed
Byard
yet.
did,
Byard did,
but it wasn't a heavy deal.
Right, exactly. It wasn't.
So,
much.
Cam Curl hasn't gotten his money yet. Justin Simmons is going to get money from somebody. It hasn't happened yet. Xavier McKinney's probably going to get money from somebody.
Yep.
That hasn't happened yet. I don't think that that's a desperate need for us. I think we need to sign a linebacker. I think we need to sign a left tackle or a tackle for that matter, and a good one, a veteran that you can trust and plug in there and feel pretty good about as you figure it out. But with those 2 second-round picks, they'll have an interesting decision to make. Package them up, try to get a top-tier player that falls into the teens, or take 2. Do you take a guard there? Do you take a tackle because there's so many of them? One falls to you that you like.
Right.
Do you take your linebacker there because you get one of the best off the board? Because that happens in the draft. The best. Do you take a tight end there because it's one of the best ones off the board outside of Brock Bowers? Happens to fall into your lap. They have a lot of choices to make, but again, them going out and doing what Jacksonville did a couple years ago when they had all the room. Well, their needs didn't match the free agent pool.
Yep.
And that's why they're not spending like that. Mm-hmm. So we'll have to see how it plays out. All right, let me take a quick break. Bram Washington Show, ESPN 630 Sports Capital. We'll get back into free agency at the top of the hour, but let's start. Let's mention the Capitals here, who had what seemed to be a very easy win over Chicago over the weekend. Chicago's a terrible road team. Mm-hmm. Capitals remain relatively hot all of a sudden. Yep. They are in striking distance of a playoff spot, but they're still going to have to remain super hot to continue.
They have 3 games at hand, though, so I mean, they
3
they
games at
truly
hand on
do.
the Flyers. Do have to leapfrog the Islanders too to get to what would be 3rd place in the Metro, which would guarantee them a playoff spot because they're even farther behind the teams that would be the wild card right now.
Yes.
So that's what we're targeting is they've got to catch the Flyers. They 3 games at hand, 5 points back, so that's not unreasonable at all. They are also starting a Western Canadian road trip, so they've got to remain hot, and that's not the easiest place to do
This will definitely make or break their season, this 4-game road trip. It's Winnipeg tonight, who's pretty good. Then it is, of course, McJesus and the Oilers on Wednesday, Kraken on Thursday, and then they end things with Vancouver on Saturday. They do have some relief on the way, though. I don't know when, but TJ Oshie was activated off IR today. So Oshie should be back into the lineup for them, maybe as soon as tonight. Nobody really knows.
Yeah.
So Oshie could be back. So we'll see. Saturday, though, what I actually liked the most, they beat the brakes off of the Blackhawks. They scored 3 goals in the first period to pretty much put them away right from the beginning. They had a crappy second period, maybe not as bad third period, but Spencer Carberry did call them out after the win. So, I mean, he literally was like, that was one of the worst periods we played, and said they need to be way, way, way better. So I was satisfied that even Carberry in a win was calling them out.
Yes. All right, so we'll see tonight. First one against the Jets tonight. Easy win over Chicago. They got up quickly, 3-0 in the first period, and they just kind of cruised. So
as I said, nice. Though, Carberry, though, called him out. He was pissed after the game. He was like, they scored 3, and then in the second period, he said, I hated our game. So I was glad that Carberry has stayed on top of that.
I agree, but I don't mind. Bad team, you get a big lead, cruise control to a win. I'm fine with it. They won 4-1. It wasn't like it got close.
No, but
it never got close.
But he's right, though. Second period sucked. And
okay.
What he's getting at is...
Listen, I'm crazy for carbs, as you know. In this case, on this one, because I watched a lot of it, I didn't mind it because, I will hear him out if they like almost blew it, but they didn't.
Sure.
They didn't almost blow it.
That's because Lindgren was good, though. I liked what he did there, though, because they blew one against the Coyotes earlier last week. So he's going, guys, clean it up. We can't lose a game down the stretch. So I like the urgency is what I'm getting at there, though. Even in a win, he's telling them, you got to play a little bit better.
2 local stories in basketball now that we're in March that I thought are very interesting. Congratulations, Georgetown women's team.
Yes.
They get to the Big East final for the first time in their program's history. And I didn't know this because I haven't been following it that closely, but apparently their coach passed away back in the fall.
Yep.
And I saw some interviews pop up on Twitter after their win yesterday that propelled them to this final of their conference tournament, where they've basically talked about how they're playing for her all year and how motivational it's been. So I think that's a really cool story that's going on, and I wish them a lot of luck as they get there, and hopefully they make the NCAA tournament. That's a heck of a story for them to have.
It's awesome for them, especially for it not to ever happen for them before. I'm actually almost a little shocked at that, but no, good for them. It's awesome.
My daughter's high school is in the state semifinals in basketball, boys basketball. Whitman will be playing Blair this week. I don't know if I'm going to be able to go because I want to because it's state semifinals. I think it'd be cool to go. But they're playing this week. And what was I going to say about it? I told her, I'm like, this is weird synergy if this actually happens. My freshman year of high school, our basketball team won the state championship. And I was like, that would be very strange if in your freshman year of high school, your basketball team won the state championship. And in my case, at Springbrook at the time, we had like a legendary coach with a really, really, really good team, and it wasn't surprising that we were really good. And last I heard, Whitman has not been a power in Maryland State basketball.
Anything, but
right. So, well, maybe lacrosse or golf. But good for them. And they won their quarterfinal game by 1 point, and the kids rushed the court apparently the other night. So I thought that was very cool. Fair enough. I'm wishing them a lot of luck because this is my new home team now. So I'm wishing them luck. I don't think I can go, but if they get to the state championship, I definitely will attend that for sure. If they do.
Just pivoting off that, did you hear about the BCC girls?
So I was going to talk about that now.
Okay, cool.
So that's the other thing that's going on because this made the rounds and a lot of people are retweeting this.
Yeah.
Apparently, BCC, Bethesda Chevy Chase, has the number 1 seed in their region or whatever level.
Girls basketball,
4A public schools, right?
Exactly.
And apparently, they were told that they have to play at a lower seed's home gym for their next playoff game. That is, and they point out, 2 hours away from Bethesda in rush hour traffic. One, and maybe you know more about this because I don't know, but I don't mind publicizing this because it sounds ridiculous in general.
Right.
Forget the driving there. If the opponent happened to be the higher seed and that's who you're playing, oh well.
Yeah.
But they're not.
Yeah.
So does anybody know why the number 1 seed wouldn't have the home game? Because I don't really understand how that worked out.
I have no idea how that works. Like I literally do not have any idea how that works. I don't know if it's because there's a scheduling issue with the gym there or something, but even in that case, that would take priority. I have no idea why. They're the number 1 seed in the 4A bracket.
Yeah, why wouldn't they have the home games?
It just says it's a scheduling quirk, is what.
That they don't have their gym available.
Yeah.
It says, okay, so everybody's been tweeting out this letter, which I think came from the BCC, I don't know who, the AD or the principal or something like that. And in it, it writes this. Throughout the regional tournament, throughout the state quarterfinals, higher seeds are given preferential treatment as a reward for the season's success, including home games that are easier for their fans to attend and provide a home court advantage. The MPSSAA Winter Bulletin says that the state semifinals will be played at predetermined sites and lists possible host schools. However, it's our understanding that these games are supposed to be neutral site games without a true full home court advantage. The bulletin goes so far as to say that member schools shall not schedule practice or scrimmage sessions at the sites of the state semifinal unless you are a host school and final championship games. Clearly, this is because the committee understands the potential advantage gained from practicing and playing at the site, especially if it's significantly different from a team's regular home court. Not only is BCC given the assignment of playing on the road, it was given a significant road trip. Of the 4 venues being used for the state semifinals, North Point is the furthest from BCC and significantly further when you add traffic considerations. Furthermore, of the 16 girls-boys basketball semifinals games, North Point is the only lower-seeded team to receive a game in its own county, let alone its own gym.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
Who agreed to let the lower seeded team? The distance is less of the issue to me, because if North Point was the higher seeded team, there would be no argument. But because they're the lower seeded team, that's why this really doesn't make any sense. And I didn't know this part where you had stated it would be at a neutral site. It's now not even at a neutral site.
Not that.
So you're making us travel to their home gym, which happens to be far away, which is ridiculous. But it happens to be far away. But we're the higher seeded team when you told us if we didn't get the home game, it would be at a neutral site.
Right.
Who's in charge of this?
Yeah, right. No, there's some questions here because this is fishy as all get out.
Beyond.
The Post reports this. The earlier rounds of the Maryland playoffs are contested at a higher seeds gym. The semifinals and finals, the finals are at Xfinity Center in College Park, as you know, are played at predetermined sites. Did it list the predetermined sites there? Because I haven't.
No,
here.
I didn't see it. I'm like, listen, I'm late to the party here of understanding what the rules were, but the rules seem to have been broken in this case. That's the problem.
It does say
if they said it was supposed to be in a neutral site, oh well, sorry, the neutral site's where it is, but it's not. It's being played at this school's home gym. That doesn't make any sense.
The Maryland Public Secondary Schools Athletic Association does not explicitly state that the semifinal venues should be neutral sites in its handbook. It says it considers factors such as facility capacity, parking availability, travel distance for participating schools to minimize instructional loss, and more. The handbook here's the money point right here. The handbook drafted before the season listed 6 potential sites for state semifinal games: Blair, Thomas Jefferson, Richard Montgomery, North Point, Paint Branch, and Wise. Paint Branch and Richard Montgomery are both in Montgomery County that are much closer for BCC, are not even being used.
But then North Point would have to travel whatever distance.
They're the lower seed, though. That's
right.
That's what happened. That's what the name of the game is.
I just don't understand this. It seems ridiculous. Aren't we into fairness here?
Right.
So BCC girls, I'm on your side here. This is ridiculous. I hope you go up there and win, because that's a ridiculous thing to ask the number 1 seed to do. An absolutely ridiculous thing to ask the number 1 seed to do.
It's also making it, you're making North Point villains when they probably had no idea, the actual players had no
like, what are you talking,
this decision.
Right.
Like, they're probably happy about it, don't get me wrong, but now you've made it all of a sudden, you made them villains, essentially.
Yes. Well, too bad. Anyway, all right, we'll get back into Tampering Day, which has turned into signing day in NFL free agency. Brave Washington Show, ESPN 630, Sports Capital. All right, here's some of the latest signings from around Tampering Day. None of these can be official, by the way, until Wednesday. And as we learned through the Ron Rivera era, sometimes people change their minds, so you never know.
I think it was like the only team that was doing that. But
let's see. Xavier McKinney, the Giant safety, 4 years, $68 million with Green Bay. Darnell Savage recently just left, and I can't remember. I'm like lost in all where everybody's moved, but he just left, so they get him. So let's see. The Giants have lost Saquon Barkley and Xavier McKinney today, but signed a guard. Did sign a guard.
Jags got Darnell Savage, by the way.
Mm-hmm. Gibson's numbers, Antonio Gibson, first prominent commander to sign with somebody else. Antonio Gibson, New England, 3 years, 11.15 up to $17 million. Sounds about right.
Yep.
About $4 million a year is what the number will be. I think it was something like 5 point something guaranteed for him. I wish him the best of luck. He's one of those. He's a classic. I wish we used him differently, because I don't think we maximized him. And you were doing this before the show. He, of the Rod Rivera era, maybe had the best singular performance in a single game that anybody had.
Yep.
And that Dallas Thanksgiving game, his first season during the pandemic, where he had 3 touchdowns, a crazy game, and then it spiraled on Dallas in the fourth quarter. Montez Sweat had a pick six. McCarthy called a stupid fake punt. Like, all sorts of crazy things happened. Yeah. That was maybe my favorite game call. Like, it was under Rivera, one of my favorites for sure. That's a top 5 moment in the Rivera era. Yep. It was his best game by far, too.
No, easily. And I mean, I think we go through this with this team going against that team in Dallas, is if you entrench yourself in one of the rivalry games, you're one of us forever, pretty much. So I would say Gibson's like that. But to your point, using him differently, sure. But I think what really killed Gibson here was that second year here where he was just fumbling like crazy.
Yes.
And then it happened in the preseason of year 3. And really,
they tried to turn him into a between the tackles running back, which never made any sense. Sure. And then, of course, they shifted to, now we need to get him in space. Duh.
Right.
No kidding.
Yeah. So, I mean, it was just, Usage wasn't great, but he also put the ball on the ground quite a bit, and I think
He
that's what killed his consistency here. They were afraid to make him the primary back or give him the ball a lot of times because of that.
But, I mean, the out was they got B-Rob. B-Rob is a classic between the tackles running back. He's been getting better. I think they underutilized him a year ago.
Of course.
And Gibson then becomes your third down back slash player slash we could line him up on the outside player. And I just don't think they did enough of it with him.
Yep.
So I think in the end, he's a very, he got snatched up off the market fast because he is a very good talent. The question is, can you put him in a role where he succeeds? He also had maybe the most electric play that we've had here in the Rivera era. In a game that got blown out up in Buffalo, he had that 70-something yard screen pass that he turned into a touchdown.
First half, right? It was close.
Incredible.
It was still close at that point.
Yeah, it was close. They were down early, and then he had this crazy 70-something yard screen pass touchdown where he zigzagged through everybody and raced to the corner of the end zone. It was incredible. So his, that first year for him was outstanding, and it just never materialized into something. And then, obviously this team is not valuing running backs. I've seen a lot of people tweet things about Eugene Shen saying, you only pay the great ones a second contract. You cycle through them and you don't. And that's why I would say to a team like the Giants, you just let a great one go.
Yes, correct.
I don't know why.
Right.
It seems over a very small amount of money.
No,
that's the craziest part of it. It's one thing if it's we only want to pay him $5 million a year and the other team wants to give him 10. Well, okay, what are you going to do? It sounds like we'll pay you 11, and the Eagles are we'll pay you 11.5, and he goes fine.
Right.
And the Giants are well, what's wrong with you?
The Giants didn't even attempt to re-sign him, is what
No.
the reports are all saying. So that's even worse.
Why?
Even worse. Yeah, I don't understand.
Who do you like that's better than him?
Right, exactly.
They did it with
no
McKinney,
idea.
too. They played with fire. They let him hit the market. He's 24 years old. They let him hit the market, and boom, he's gone.
Right. It's ridiculous.
4 years, 68. Let's do the math on that. 4 years, 68 is what he got?
Yes, yeah.
So, wait a minute. That's 15 a year? 15 plus a year?
15 plus, yeah.
Cam Curl likes that.
Yep.
A lot.
Right.
So maybe he's going, well.
There's going to have to be a wave 2 of safeties, though, and I think Cam Curl's part of that wave, too.
4 years, 68 for him. Justin Simmons might get more than that.
Mm-hmm.
So now Cam Curl is probably sitting there going, I'll take that. 4 years, 68. I don't know if he'll get it, but it's probably the number he's looking at.
Right.
Something in there.
As I told you, though, I don't think Cam Curl is regarded highly by the rest of the league.
I don't think so either.
He's just never on those rankings, never talked about like that. I mean, he's been good. He's made plays, but not big plays.
Correct.
I think if he's any first surprise, if he thinks he's getting that, I don't think he is.
So let's see. Then we'll recalibrate his number. What's he get? $13 million a year?
Yeah, I was going to say 10 to 14.
So 4 years,
right?
52? 4 years, 52.
That sounds about right.
That's probably too rich for the Commander's blood, too. Otherwise, they would have done this by
exactly. Because I still think it's it's funny with them. The one place they have depth is safety. So why would you spend that, too? They're going to spend smartly, right?
Yes.
Why would you overpay for that?
The other things they need to spend for, I'll reiterate, I'm waiting to hear about a tackle because I think they have to get one.
Right.
We don't have a kicker currently, so I'd like to see we'll see what happens there. I mean, that's not a big money spend, but we do have to get one, and so we'll have to see if it's not going to be Joey Sly, who is not under contract currently.
Right.
They have to get a tackle. I think there are very good options at linebacker. We haven't heard Patrick Queen sign with anybody yet. That's an interesting one. I wonder what that number is going to be. I don't think he's going to come here, but I'd like to see what that number is because he should be top of the market for the linebackers. And there's a couple other linebackers that are of interest to me. Frankie Louvu's an interesting one to me. So we'll have to see how that goes. I don't think Bobby Wagner's coming here. I just have a funny feeling not unlike Saquon probably wanted to stay in the Northeast, Bobby Wagner's played his whole career on the West Coast. I got a hard time buying that he's taken a one-year deal to come here, even if they're interested in offering him that. But I am interested to see what happens here. There are a couple of 49ers players that I'm watching a little closely here. Azeez Al-Shaair, linebacker, would be a rotational type player. Maybe he comes in as a linebacker. And Eric Armstead was released.
Yep.
And he's very good, high-end, top talent player. We just spent on Dorrance Armstrong, so I think that takes us out of that marketplace. But when I saw him get released, I went, well, maybe Adam Peters likes him. So let's see how that goes.
Your Saquon Barkley replacement. Do you even want to take a guess?
Oh, Giants?
Yeah. They've signed a running back.
Is it a big name one?
No. I mean, it's a name. He's a starter. But
Alexander Madison.
No.
I don't know.
I can give you a hint.
Okay.
Saquon was going to go there but he wasn't under contract. Who their former starter was?
Damian Pierce?
No.
Who?
Devin Singletary.
Devin Singletary?
Goes to the Giants.
Wow. I just want to
Devin
text
Singletary, come on down.
I just want to text Jordan Renan and Anita Marks and be like, what are you guys doing? What did he get? Does it say?
It doesn't say. It just says that he has agreed to a deal. That was per Jeremy Fowler. It just says source Devin Singletary to the Giants. Probably a 1-year deal, right? I don't think he gets anything above that.
Are they trying to tank?
Sure sounds like it. The way
Are they like, we can't win with Jones. We're stuck with him for a year.
Right.
We might as well stink. That's when we can get out of this?
Maybe. I could
Or
see that.
are they mismanaged?
Still though, you signed
What is it?
You signed the studs though. You signed
Right.
you signed Saquon.
Xavier McKinney's 24 years old.
Right.
Are you kidding?
Yeah, that's
Like, really?
I got no idea, man.
A good team, bad team. Why wouldn't you want somebody like that? Who do you want?
Right.
That's when you start asking the question, who do you
Well, I
want?
got the number for you if you want it.
Okay.
3 years, $16.5 million guaranteed, $19.5 total. Like it could get up to that.
So he gets like
Singletary.
$6 million a year.
Yeah.
So he gets half what Saquon got. And he's 10% as good as Saquon Barkley.
10%.
Oh my God. What are you people doing? What are you doing? I need you to think about the pregame show when we start talking about these things. You'll get a better sense of how everybody feels. They're in a bubble on their own, the Giants. I don't know what they're doing.
You would appreciate this too. Just scrolling through Twitter, apparently Ike Reese is in studio today. I don't know if he has a normal show up in Philly or not every single day, but he apparently just lamented Eagles fans by going, "Don't ever doubt Howie again, all of you people," which I agree with Ike on that point.
They're going to try to trade Hassan Reddick and Josh Sweat. They may not be able to. So they'll probably just be available.
Right.
And both of them will be interesting when that happens. Like, this is that second wave stuff that may come around where the Commanders might have some interest. Josh Sweat or Hassan Reddick.
Right.
Or do the Chargers actually cut Bosa? Like, is that possible that they do that? Like,
I think
that
it could be. Absolutely could be.
possible that they just cut him? I mean, I doubt it, but who knows? Do they just cut Khalil Mack? Is that a possibility that they would actually do that? I don't know.
I mean, as you said, it would have to be like a nothing trade for some of these teams to take on this salary. It's
Correct.
a massive salary. So this is the old, we've only seen it really one time, right? Where a team's salary dumped with a draft pick, right? It was the Brock Osweiler trade. Am I crazy? There hasn't really been much else besides that one, right? Where
A salary dump trade.
Where a team attached a draft pick for a player so another team could take his salary on.
I don't remember anybody else doing it.
That's it. And I don't think you'd have to attach a pick to any of these guys. I think you'd get a market for a few of them. So, I mean,
let's see.
One
All
of
right.
them's got to go.
Here's the ticker. Devin Singletary to the Giants. Dimitro Autry to the Texans. He's an underrated defensive end. Xavier McKinney, that's a big deal. 4 years, $68 million. So $17 million.
He was the highest ranked safety, too. I mean,
Outside of Justin Simmons.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Giants didn't want to meet his demands. He's gone. Jeff Okudah to the Texans, 1-year deal. Antonio Gibson, 3-year deals, Patriots. Devontae Parker being released by the Patriots now. Charlie Werner signs with the Falcons. Panthers, I saw this number is unbelievable. So Robert Hunt, who was best guard on the market, that market started to close up quickly when players started signing, but he hit the marketplace. Signs with Carolina on a 5-year, $100 million deal. $63 million of it is guaranteed. That's a guard.
That's crazy.
5 years, $100 million, $63 million guaranteed. So when he gets asked the inevitable question, why did you go from Miami to Carolina? He's going to go, why do you think? And I hope he just says it honestly, because they were the worst team in the league last year that don't look like they're going to be much better than they were, other than they have a new coach. And he's going to go, would you turn that contract down?
What's the tax situation there, too?
Carolina?
Yeah.
Can't be as good as Florida. Florida's got no state tax.
It's nothing, but
$63 million guaranteed for a guard. I guess we were out of that business. What else we got? Blake Cashman goes to the Vikings. Aaron Jones released. Josh Jacobs. I haven't seen the numbers yet on that. Josh Jacobs to the Packers. Sounds like they told Jones, take it or leave it deal.
Right.
He said no. They released him and went and signed Josh Jacobs, which I don't know that I would call that necessarily just an upgrade on its face. I don't know that I totally agree with. Like, I think they're both very good.
Not only that, did you guys not watch what happened in that playoff game? Like, the reason they beat the Cowboys was because of Jones and the way he played. Like, I don't know. That's it almost sends a bad precedent of, like, that guy was a playoff hero for you guys last year. Like,
is he going to be staring down a $5 million a year deal? If he is, I'd like to sign him. Thank you. Let's bring him in and pair him with Brian Robinson. Let's see. Jaguars sign Will Lutz, the kicker. They also got a deal with Darnell Savage. Mike DeRocco covers them. They also did a deal with Mitch Morse, the former Bills center, so he's already there.
Yep.
They also got Gabe Davis, 3-year deal. That's an interesting receiving core. Because they signed Gabe Davis, everyone is now expecting Calvin Ridley to go somewhere else. Mm-hmm. And I don't know how I feel about him. I think he's an above-average receiver. I wouldn't go out of my way to spend a lot of money for him. However, he's a perfect go to the Chiefs.
Yep. Right.
Perfect.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
Go to the Chiefs. Andrew Van Ginkel goes to Minnesota, but Daniil Hunter hasn't signed with anybody yet. Giants did sign John Runyon, the former Packers guard, to a 3-year, $30 million deal. Saquon Barkley to the Eagles. Unbelievable. Kirk, I'll get to all the quarterbacks in a bit. Panthers are moving on from Von Bell. They are releasing him. Okay. Jonah Jackson, the former Detroit guard, goes to the Rams on a $51 million deal. How long is this? 3-year, $51 million. So that's a sizable number, too.
Yep.
So they re-signed Kevin Dotson. They have very good young tackle there. Now they bring in Jonah Jackson. Watch.
They have arguably the best running back in the league, too, in terms of what he did at the end of last year.
I think he's a very good one.
No, I'm saying in a combo, yes. He was the hottest one to finish off the season last year.
So
they have a legit running back.
Their offense is going to be really good next year.
Yep.
If those guys stay healthy. Jonah Jackson's actually had some injuries, but like their interior offensive line will be as good as anybody's next year. Their tackles are good enough. If Stafford stays healthy, with Puka emerging, Cooper Kupp healthy for the year, they're like a decent tight end away with the emergence of the running back too. Watch. Top 5 offense next year.
Sure.
If Stafford's healthy. Well, top 5 offense next year.
Well, it's also telling you, too, the Rams actually invest in their scouts, too, because that's all they've done in the last couple of years is just rebuild that team after saying F them picks, or they've nailed the few picks that they've gotten.
The issue for them will be defensive side of the ball. Raheem Morris left, and they thought he was part of the secret sauce of the whole thing.
Yep.
They do have a couple of studs. Obviously, Aaron Donald, assuming he stays engaged and wants to play and all of that stuff, because he's been hinting at retirement for a couple of years now. But assuming he comes back, well, you have a stalwart on the defensive line. There isn't a lot else there. A lot of young guys played for them. And we got to play them late in the season, so I got to watch them. And this is why I loved Raheem when he hit the marketplace in the coaching hiring cycle. I thought he did a great job with a very young core group of players because they made a lot of mistakes, especially in the secondary. They would get caught in, like we saw this you'd watch on film with the Commanders last year. The Commanders had no excuse for what they were doing on the back end because they were confused. Yeah. Like clearly that came out as the season went along. I think the Rams just had a lot of young players that got fooled into things and they would get beat on these big plays. With a little more age, maybe some upgrades. I want to watch them to see if they do anything in free agency on the defensive side of the ball. They need a couple more players on that side of the ball. I don't think their defense is quite good enough to compete, but they already made the playoffs last year. They almost won that playoff game. They just bolstered an offensive line. Watch. Top 10 minimum offense, maybe top 5 offense if Stafford, Kupp, and Puka stay healthy for the year. And if they stay healthy on that side of the ball, which is a question with Stafford for sure. But if they do, potentially top 5 offense. Those 2 receivers are very difficult to guard. Williams really emerged, and now that they've bolstered the center of their offensive line to protect Stafford because he's a pocket quarterback, watch out.
Yep.
McVay's going to be cooking next year. Watch.
For sure. Yeah, I agree.
Let's see what else. Bryce Huff went to the Eagles. Howie Roseman. Oh, man. Has he had a bad offseason yet?
I told you. That's what's so funny about Eagles fans bitching about him. He fixes it every single year.
Well,
every single year.
Rams signed Colby Parkinson to a 3-year, $22 million deal. Okay, so that's their answer at tight end. That's not a huge upgrade in my opinion, but that's what they did. Let's see, what else do we got? Who else do we got? Oh, T. Higgins asked for a trade today.
Yes. Yeah, that was earlier today.
And his reasoning, at least that came out, was, I know they franchised me, but they haven't approached me about a long-term contract, and therefore I want out of here, which I think is a leverage play to get them talking to him. And I think they're not going to trade him. That's my gut. I don't blame him for doing it. Yep. I think because Pittman just got signed by the Colts and got a nice deal. I think this is just hey, don't forget about me because I'm sitting over here and you have my rights controlled. I think he's just putting pressure on them, and I don't think they'll fall for it. So I don't believe he will be traded. I think they'll, unless he makes it really uncomfortable. I just think his agent and he were going, you know what? You all need to approach us.
Yeah, but don't they have to make the deal by like today? Isn't today the deadline for franchise tag deals?
No.
Or is that?
No, you can tag a guy and get a long-term deal up through the summer.
Okay. All right.
Or you can make him play on it. He doesn't have to sign it.
Right. Okay. Maybe that's what I'm thinking of.
It doesn't mean he gets out.
Yeah. Right.
But so I don't my gut says they value him and they're not going to trade him and they want to keep the gang together and they're just probably for some reason the long-term deal wasn't on the priority list for them. So I bet he ends up staying there. Jonathan Grenard, who's an underrated, very good pass rusher to Minnesota, but they're losing Danielle Hunter. I'd say the same thing about Minnesota that I say about the Giants. I don't know what you're doing. Like, you already have a good player. You're replacing him with somebody else, different player from a different team. I don't understand it. DeAndre Swift to Chicago, that's a pretty good pickup for them.
Sure, yeah.
I mean, just upgrades their backfield. I don't know that it makes them, a million times better, but upgrades their backfield. No surprise, Tony Pollard left Dallas. I know that they were saying all along, they're in the running to keep him, but they weren't going to pay the price. And he went for about $8 million a year to Tennessee, which sounds about right. So he is the heir apparent to Derrick Henry, who's still on the market. We'll have to see where he ends up.
I do find that funny, though. Like, Henry was still effective last year, Titan for life, and then you still went and spent $8 million on Pollard, who's not a solo running back either. You're going to have to pair him with somebody. So I don't know. I just found that interesting in that you could have probably just re-signed Henry and not had to sign a running back to pair.
True, but they changed their coach.
Yeah.
They brought in basically a different offense now.
Yeah.
They have been a ground and pound with Henry, obviously.
Right.
Tannehill and Henry. They've had a ground and pound attack, rely on the defense. They just hired an offensive coach. Burrow throws the ball a lot. Maybe they think Levis is going to throw the ball a lot. Pollard's very good out of the backfield. This makes more sense to me that you're not going to have a running back who carries the ball 20 to 25 times a game. And I don't think Pollard can do that anyway. So it might be a pretty good fit for them. We'll have to see how that goes. And then the other thing that happened over the weekend, which is worth mentioning, and this is no surprise because they didn't tag him and there was no whisper of him getting out on the market. Chris Jones signed a massive contract, but fully deserved. He might be the best defensive player in the NFL.
No, absolutely. He was worth every penny, and we had thought by the time free agent was open that he was going to be signed. I do think it took a little bit longer, which probably helped him out because the Chiefs were not wanting to put him on the open market. He was going to make a crap ton of money.
He was so important that going into the Super Bowl because he got dinged up in that Ravens game, I went, if he's dinged up, they're going to lose.
Yeah, right. Right.
And if he's not, then, Mahomes will, I'm sure, will work his magic as he always does. All right, let me get into all the quarterback moves and non-moves so far next. Bram wants to show ESPN 630 Sports Capital. Mike Freeman asks, Saquon first overall fantasy pick?
Ooh, no.
Well, not when Jalen Hurts gets all the touchdowns inside the 5.
I was going to say, yeah.
No.
As someone who had Jalen last year, he salvaged so many outings by vulturing a touchdown or two down
Will
in the
they
end zone.
keep doing that down there now that Kelsey's gone? That's an interesting little mystery of the 2024 season. Will they continue to do that tush-push thing and quarterback sneaks now that Kelsey's retired? I don't know.
I'm going to guess they just handed the money to Dickerson, right? He's just going to take a little step over and probably follow him into the end zone. That'd be my guess, right?
Jalen's too good at those sneaks.
Yeah, you have to keep doing it.
When it works every time, you just keep doing it. Yeah. Right, Dusty?
Right.
All right. Right. Okay.
Throwback, jeez.
Gus Edwards left Baltimore, signs with the other Harbaugh.
Harbaugh. That's their first free agency signing under him, by the way.
Greg Roman's the offensive coordinator there, so that makes sense. And that also means Austin Eckler is probably gone. I'll see what number he gets on the open market.
Yep.
Let's see. Anything else? Nothing from the Commanders other than the 2 signings so far. Oh, this one tweet was funny, too. I just realized that the Falcons passed on paying 26-year-old Lamar Jackson $200 million over 4 years so they could pay 36-year-old Achilles tear Kirk Cousins $180 million instead.
Are we past the Lamar thing though? It was going to
You
cost
couldn't get him.
Yeah, it was going to cost you picks too. Like, God,
If they were going to trade him,
Right.
which they didn't have to, they could match whatever you gave them.
So stupid.
He was never really available, which is why nobody offered him the contract.
So dumb. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Whatever. Now I feel like now we're doing Throwback Thursday. Remember that time when everyone said the Commanders should get Lamar Jackson
Right.
even though he wasn't
Even though
actually
you
available?
Couldn't actually get him.
You couldn't actually get him?
You're just going to upset everybody.
Just everybody's going to get mad.
Yes, when you don't get him.
Let's do the quarterbacks. Kirk Cousins, $180 million to the Falcons. Only 2 of the 4 years are guaranteed this time. So the next 2 are certainties for him. After that, there are outs for both sides with some guaranteed golden parachutes on the way out.
Right.
Kirk moves the family to Georgia. It's where he sets up shop for his post-playing career. Will he become the senator from Georgia? Is he looking at Marjorie Taylor Greene's district and going, I could win that one in a couple of years?
Maybe.
Maybe.
I do find it funny that we do have to do some retroactive reflecting here. Florio was right. His source about hearing about the Atlanta housing and the Atlanta schools. Yeah.
Overheard too. He admitted, he goes, this is my reporting.
Yep.
Heard about him looking at schools and heard Kirk's wife say, when's Minnesota going to give us a contract? Why are you hanging us out to dry?
Right.
You know, you hold people feet to the fire like this. Sometimes they get mad about it.
For sure.
And if I were Kirk, I would also look around and go, and what are we doing up here? Because I don't understand it.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. No, for sure. And you also had, when it came to Kirk as well, I don't know, did you see the Vikings statement? They did release a statement.
They put a statement
They put a statement out. Not a, thanks, Kirk. It was after talks to Kirk Cousins, we could not find a deal that fit for both our short-term and long-term plans in a contract.
They've been trying to move away from him for a while,
right? Yeah.
And they're outwardly admitting that. Right. So this wasn't the dude from Cleveland, like the so-called king. They'll win a championship. I'll win a championship before he will.
It wasn't that. No. This was just this is why we didn't sign him, guys. That's all it was.
Because we want to go younger, and that's why we're going to go get Sam Darnold. Oh man, I got to call my boy Phil Mackey from Purple Daily. Oh boy. No.
They're like, guys.
I wonder what Drew McGarry thinks today.
Oh, God.
Noted Vikings fan.
That's right.
Is he psyched about this? Because this is a hard one. Everyone realizes he's good, but he never wins anything big.
Right, but this is what's funny is seeing the discourse today of people like, oh my God, Kirk Cousins, all-time bag stealer. And I'm like, no. He's a good NFL quarterback, not a great NFL quarterback. Those guys get money. Period.
Yeah, period. And also, and he was at the forefront of this, master negotiator.
Yes, right.
He leveraged the teams better than most. And Ndamukong Suh did it. Darrelle Revis did it. He's done it at a quarterback level that is. Deshaun Watson did it too. I think for very different reasons did he get the contract he got. Atlanta, New Orleans, Carolina, where he wanted to go, wouldn't give him that.
That's right.
Had any of them given him that, he would be there because he wanted to play in the South and everybody knew it.
Right.
But Cleveland gave him a deal because it was the only one, and I don't blame him for taking it. How could you turn down 5 years the guaranteed money? You had to take it. But that's the only reason why, in my opinion, that's the only reason why he's in Cleveland. Kirk has anybody who wants me, you have to talk to me on my terms, and eventually someone says, fine.
That's right. Right. Exactly. As far as I'm concerned, the bag stealer to me was always like Sam Bradford, who was injured every single year, yet got a guaranteed contract out of the Rams, then got more money out of the Eagles. That's somebody who steals money. Kirk, for all intents and purposes, besides when he got his Achilles hurt, has been healthy, been pretty durable. Yes, and has he had his bad moments? Yeah, he plays quarterback in the NFL, but you can't tell me that good quarterbacks are stealing money. That's what they do. They get the cash. So, yeah, I'm sick of that narrative of he's stealing money. He's not.
No, he's not.
He's a good quarterback. They get contracts.
Correct. You don't need to kowtow to the team.
Right.
And he didn't in Minnesota. And Minnesota's going, well, we wanted to sign him on our terms. Right. And Kirk's going, that's not how it works.
Congrats. I'm in a B tier. I'm the only one in the B tier, so somebody's going to sign me. So
yeah. See you later.
Right.
All right, quarterback 2, Mac Jones. Mac Jones traded for a 6th-round pick to be Trevor Lawrence's backup.
Yep.
And, I think this is a extremely wise move by Jacksonville because here's the deal with Trevor Lawrence. I think he's very good. I also don't think he's ascended to the level of top 5 quarterback. Guess whose contract is going to be up in a couple of years? I'm assuming they're going to pick up his 5th-year option, because why wouldn't you do that? Because he's going into year 4, which means you've got to pick up the 5th-year option. They're going to with him for sure, which means you have him under control for 2 years. And it also, you have 1 year to work with Mac Jones.
Right.
And you get to go, okay, let's see if either one of these people are the same, because guess what? If he doesn't, Trevor, have a big year here, you're going to be asking yourself the same questions. Are we going to pay him $50 million a year? And I think we're finally getting around to this point where people are going, I'm going to think about that.
Yes, correct. Exactly.
It takes up too much of your cap. Look what happens to these teams. Yes, you have to do it for Mahomes, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, Herbert, whoever you think are the top tier P1, number 1 quarterback. You have to do it with them because you can't afford to lose them. You're not going to do better than them. And you got to take your chances with the rest of the roster. And in the case of Buffalo and Kansas City or Cincinnati, for as long as those guys are healthy and playing, they're going to be playing this game until the end of time. They're just going to have to figure out a way to put a roster together, and then they got to make really tough decisions, and they'll have holes, obvious holes, because you can't have the type of team that you want to have around it, but you have to do it. The other teams, like the Giants, what the Cowboys are thinking about right now,
right.
What I think Jacksonville signaled by doing this was, you know what? If he doesn't become the guy we want him to in the next year, well, guess what? We have a backup here who might be as good as him in our system that we could pay a fraction of.
Yep, that's right.
And so for Mac, he's definitively the backup.
Yep. No pressure situation. It's a
pressure.
Florida team that doesn't get that recognition.
You know, not that he had a choice in this, but I'm sure he would have preferred to go to a place where he could compete to be the starter, which I don't think will be the case. It'll be very telling if it's even close this summer. And if Peterson plays his cards right, he'll do the full Ron thing. He's our backup. He won't even let it be a thing.
Yep.
If he even announces that Mac has a hint of a chance at it, the reality is the way Trevor's played, Mac might be able to compete with him.
Right.
That's the scary part by doing this. But I actually think it was a wise move for them. It's very telling for Mac Jones, and I'm not surprised that the market wasn't brisk for him. He hasn't done very much. There's been a lot of weird stuff with him, the way he kind of conducts himself.
He gets pissed off after every mistake.
Yeah. And so I think, he's one of those where I look at him and I go, new place, you get a chance to regroup a little bit. Peterson's a very good quarterback coach. I'm surprised Lawrence hasn't ascended here. He's a very good quarterback coach. Maybe Dougie P's going, I don't know if I can get out of Lawrence what I want to get.
Right.
Let's get Mac in our system for a year and see where he is after this year.
This goes back to what I believe with all the top quarterbacks now. I think the timeline is moved up now. Because remember the old timeline in the NFL was if you draft a quarterback in the first round, it takes 7 years off your franchise. That essentially it took that long. I think people are like so sick of that now.
It's
4 to 5. 4 to 5 is what I say.
When the contract is up.
And basically now, though, you know whether a guy's going to be elite or not. And even if he's not elite, if he goes somewhere else, the ceiling's not that high. Like I always look at Tannehill as the modern quarterback that we're gonna let him go because he's good, not great. Not like Kirk, but we know the ceiling's not there. And what does he do? He goes to the Titans. He was a pretty good quarterback, but he wasn't really anything to write home about, honestly, in Tennessee.
They ran a great system for
Correct.
him.
Exactly. And
they paid him relatively well, but not top of the market. And they proved out if you bring him in at the right rate, it gives you the opportunity to build around him.
Yeah.
So you have two choices here. You have a good quarterback like Tannehill, but you have a really good team around him, hopefully.
Yep.
Or you get lucky and you get Mahomes, and you just got to figure it out because he's so good that you just got to pay him top dollar no matter what that is and figure it out around him.
And Jacksonville is in the former right now.
Well, they're thinking about it.
Yeah, Lawrence has not shown you enough. And does he make that jump? Maybe. I don't know.
But if he does, Mac Jones will be somewhere else when his contract is up.
Correct.
If he doesn't, then they have at least you know what? Do we really want to pay him $40 million a year?
Exactly.
Let's see. Baker got $30 million a year.
Yeah.
I actually thought that was the right number. Considering the top tier quarterbacks are getting 40 plus, and in some cases 50 to 60, this was what I thought right on the nose for what he's worth. Like, that is the right number for where he is. It's only a 3-year deal. It's at $30 million a year. If he replicates what he did last year for the last couple of years, he'll be a bargain at that. It is acknowledgement on both sides. We know you're not that, but we also know that you outperformed this and you could get this somewhere else. Let's just keep you here because you like being here. I think it was a good deal for them. If they weren't going to be able to upgrade from him, then this is the right thing to do. It's the right length. It's the right price. I thought that was very well played by them.
I don't think anyone was giving him more than a year or 2. I thought it was going to be a year, maybe with an option attached.
At that number.
Yeah, so the fact that they gave him 3, they were on the same page on that one. They got it done.
They got it done. Let's see. Russ goes to Pittsburgh. Russ signs for $1.2 million because the Broncos inexplicably let him go, are going to eat this dead money, and are forced to pay him $30-something million. So this just tacks onto this, and he's helping Pittsburgh out by doing it. They're helping him out to some degree. I am somewhat surprised that he only signed a 1-year deal with them, but maybe...
The report was that he and his agent had some absorbent asked for year 2. That there was a
That's
year
what
2.
It was.
There was a year 2 player option, but it was for like stupid amount of money, like $40 million.
I'm sure.
And the Steelers are like,
we're not going to do that.
Pal. Good luck out there.
We're not going to do that.
Yeah.
Right. We're not going to do that. So you've got to get through this year, and then we could talk about it after this year. I think it's maybe the best deal that anybody has gotten in a long time.
Yeah.
If you can sit there and make fun of it all you want, if it doesn't work out, they can bench him.
Yep, correct. Yep.
They don't.
Mm-hmm.
He has to perform too. They can cut him. They can cut him. It costs them nothing.
Yep.
All the pressure is on Russ to show up, win the job, which he may or may not do. I bet Tomlin says it is a competition, and I would believe it. And him making $1.2 million, you can say that. Go compete with our first-round pick. Good luck with that. I think he should win that job. I think he's an upgrade from Pickett, in my opinion. And I think if he performs the way he did a year ago, but he does so without the scrutiny of what's going on around him or a coach that hates him, obviously, then I think that this might actually work. It's an incredibly low-risk, high-reward bet.
That's right.
Huge high-reward bet. It is a win for Pittsburgh. For Russ, if he doesn't perform well on this contract, whatever ask he has on the other side is vanished.
Yep.
So he has to play well here, and then like Baker, he could probably get $30 million again next year, whether it's from them or somebody else. But if he does it really well there, they'll give it to him.
That's right.
So we'll see how that goes. I thought that was an incredible deal for them. Fields hasn't been traded yet.
Yep. Good luck with that.
I can't wait let's see where he goes first, and then I can't wait to hear, this is why I think the NFL offseason, if they ever did, you want to do Hard Knocks, do it now. What is everyone saying real?
Funny part about
because I'm actually genuinely surprised someone didn't trade for him
yet. Funny part about this is Adam Schefter mentioned this, I think we talked about it like 6 weeks ago, and was like, it sounds outlandish when he said it, but he's Schefter, so you always have to take a grain of salt with what he says and take it into context, right? He floated out there, how do you know the Bears won't take them both into camp? Fields and Caleb Williams.
I think that would be too uncomfortable.
I agree, but they might be doing the thing that he had suggested this. He said, if they're not in a rush or they don't feel the compensation is enough for Fields, they might do the old, we're going to carry you into camp and wait for an injury to happen. And then somebody steps
that's possibility.
up. I don't think they'll both.
I don't think he'll be on the roster by the time the season.
No, that's what he was saying. Camp though. He was just saying camp.
But he could say he could wait it out. And the reality is, Kirk signed, Russ signed. Mm-hmm. There are a couple teams, the Raiders, the Vikings, who don't have a quarterback right now. Yep. So they got to get one somewhere. Mm-hmm. And if they don't do it in the draft, all of a sudden the compensation may change.
That's right. Yep.
But the longer this goes on, the more the pressure is on the Bears. We're assuming those teams would want him.
That's right.
You don't know that.
That's right.
Maybe the Raiders don't want him.
Right.
Who knows? And the last one I'll just mention is this, because nothing's happened and it's been very quiet, and the Commanders have been extremely quiet about everything they do. But are the Commanders shopping Sam Howell or are they not?
Right.
We don't really know the answer to that.
We don't know that.
I could make arguments both ways on the assumption that we're picking a rookie quarterback with the number 2 pick. I could make arguments both ways, but I've heard nothing, and I think they like it that way.
This is Josina Anderson, so take it for whatever you want.
Sam?
No, not Sam. She is being told that the Commanders and the Raiders have made inquiries about Austin Eckler.
The Commanders have?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's okay.
Eckler Robinson has a good ring to it, if they could do that.
Eckler, okay, so Josita says we're interested in Eckler. You see, running back was an underrated thing that I thought we might be interested in, but I didn't think at the top level of it. This will depend to me what Eckler's price is.